I extend a very warm welcome to all those who are present this afternoon for this webinar, whose topic is Maulana Azad's views on nationalism, Hindu-Muslim questions, and the concept of Pakistan. We have the pleasure of having with us today Professor Shah Nurur Rahman, who is in Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. He has occupied many important and distinguished positions in his long career. At present, he is an associate professor in the Department of History in NEHU. The topic of today's lecture, as we all know, is very important because Maulana Azad was one of the most important voices against the partition of the country in the name of religion. Till the very end, he was convinced that the partition will harm not only the interests of India as a whole, but also the interests of the Muslim community of the Indian subcontinent, in whose name Muslim League was asking for a separate homeland of Pakistan. So I believe that Dr. Rahman is today going to talk about the moderate nationalist politics of Maulana Azad and how it was the setback to this politics and the fact that other extremist leaders like Jinnah and others, they were able to emerge in the 5 or 10 years preceding the partition of India. These people were able to emerge as the authentic voice of the Muslim community, which greatly contributed to the partition of India. So with these very few words, I would now like to invite Professor Rahman to begin his lecture on the subject. Can you hear me, Shanu? Professor Shanur, can you hear me? Yes, Professor Shanur. So,
yes, actually, I was removed from the meeting by
okay.
no reason. However,
So,
I could not hear you.
So welcome to Nehru Memorial webinar series, and we are thankful to you for accepting this invitation, and I request you to start your lecture.
Okay. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm thankful to Dr. Ravikant Mishra, Deputy Director of Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, a good friend of mine, for giving me an opportunity to share my view with you on Maulana Azad's views on nationalism, Hindu-Muslim questions, and the idea of Pakistan. Actually, I am not an expert on Azad, but I have love for history. As a student of history, I wanted to know his role on the pages of history, particularly for United India. So that is why I have chosen this topic, and I would like to share my view, whatever I know, with you. But before going to my lecture, I express my sincere thanks and greeting to all of you from the city of Calcutta, a city of joy. Maulana Azad was also brought up from this city. So now let me introduce Maulana Azad before you. Azad needs no introduction, but for the sake of the webinar, I would like to say little bit about him. that Azad was a great freedom fighter. He was a nationalist par excellence. He was an ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity. He was elected Congress president in 1923 at the age of 35. And perhaps he was the youngest president of Congress throughout the times. And he was the president of Congress from 1940 to 46. That was the very, very crucial hour. During his presidency, the Quit India movement was called for. And the resolution was moved by Pandit Nehru, seconded by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. After independence, Azad became the Education Minister of India from 1947 to 1958 till his death. And he did wonderful work for education of India. He was the founder of many institutions, Natya Kala Academy, Sangeet Kala Academy, Lalit Kala Academy, Indian Cultural Council, etc., etc. But our main focus today is to highlight Azad's role in our national movement. What did he think about Indian nationality? What was his formula for the solution of Hindu-Muslim problems? And what was his view on Muslim League and Pakistan? That is very, very important aspect today. And if you want to examine as a student of history, I hope we'll definitely discover the truth on the basis of our evidences. I did not go for the gamut of resources which is written on Azad, but sincerely I have tried to study some of the works of Azad. His autobiography, India Wins Freedom, is very, very important book, you know. He was a journalist also, and he was the editor of Al-Hilal and Al-Balad, and both the journals are the microphones of his political views indeed. He wanted to bring consciousness in the mind of the people of the country, and these two journals played a significant role as microphone of his views. But you know, nationalism is a subject of debate, no doubt. We will go there. But Azad, when he became the Congress president at the age of 23, he appealed to the Indian people in general and Muslims in particular, because there was a separate platform for the Muslim, that is Muslim League. And when he was a boy of 18 years old in 1906, Muslim League was founded, and he was very shocked, heard the news about the separatist movement of India. And his appeal to the people of the India to be free from the slavery of foreign rule was not merely a national cause, it was also their religious duty to remove the foreigners from the country. And the Indian people are divided. If they are separated, it will be a Himalayan task to do this. It will be delayed. That is why he appealed to the Muslims very clearly. And he said that the Indo-French forces were not the friends of the Muslims. But why Muslim? You are playing the role of the slaves of the Britishers. In India, you see the old man, how the Muslims are oppressed, depressed, tortured, persecuted by the Britishers. They are also persecuting our country, and we should be free from the bondage of the Britishers. So he made appeal in general to the Indian people, in particular to the Muslims. And I would like to quote him. He declared, "It is easier for the Muslims to make peace with scorpions and snakes move into the mountains, caves, and burrows, and make peace with the beasts there. But it is not possible for them to beg for trust with the Britishers. So you can easily understand that Azad suggests to make friends with the animals, but not with the British. They are dangerous foes. They are the challenge to the freedom movement, and we have to remove them by any means. And he firmly believed that there is no alternative between freedom and death. So this was the belief of Maulana. And you have to see what kind of nationalism he believed, he followed. Actually, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad believed in the broad-based nationalism. What is that nationalism? Actually, he talked in terms of broad-based nationalism, embracing all religions and communities in a country like India, where there has been great diversity in the matter of language and culture. And I would like to quote him in his own words, what he has written in his India with Freedom, what sort of nationalism he believed. It's a big passage, but I will try to make it short and introduce you with his view. I quote, I am a Muslim and I am a proud to be so. My source of inspiration are the Islamic traditions, but over more than 1300 years. If I lose even a fragment of this inspiration, then I shall deem my life useless. My real property is the history, education, art, culture, and civilization, and heritage of Islam. It is my good fortune also to protect. It is my duty. Being a Muslim, I have a special liking for the religion and culture of Islam, and I do not want any kind of interference in this matter. But together with these sentiments, I have other values also, which constituted the reality of my life. These realities exercise some restraint on me. The consciousness of Islam does not come in the way of these values. On the other hand, they give direction to me and help me. It is a matter of pride for me to be an Indian. I'm a part of indivisible India. This is Indian nationalism. The common history of India, extending to 1100 years, has brought India to this stage of common achievement. This is a stamp of unity in all our literature, culture, art, dress, behavior, customs, and everyday activity. Anything which breaks this stamp of unity is unrealistic. It is this common life of 1100 years which has molded us into a broad-based nationalism, unquote. Here what we have seen, he said, the India is a land of various kind of people. They live together with perfect amity and harmony. And they are the part and parcel of Indian nationalism. And they should fight for the cause of the nationalism. They should try to remove the Britishers. So this is his argument. And he also talked about the relation of religion with nationalism. Here he is also very clear. He said he was the great champion of Hindu-Muslim unity, I have already mentioned, even in his first quotation that we have mentioned. So Maulana Azad had very clear views about the terms between religion and nationalism. The question of Indian first or Muslim first was irrelevant to him. In his own words, I quote, I'm proud being an Indian. I'm part of indivisible unity, that is Indian nationality. I am indispensable to this noble edifice. And without me, this splendid structure of India is incomplete. In fact, he stands for a united India of Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Parsis, and others on the basis of rational approach to common problems. To him, the problem of understanding between the two major religions, the Hindus and the Muslims as it exists, is primarily a matter of cultural adjustment. he always believed that without the unity and integrity of Indian people, the struggle for independence is meaningless. We need our unity first, and we have to start our freedom movement together without any break. That is why again and again he appealed to the Muslim people not to join the separatist movement. He tried to convince them that India is one, Indian people is one, and we all fight shoulder to shoulder against our enemy. Otherwise, we will no hope and we will be slave in our own country. So it was his view. And sometimes question may be arising regarding majority and minority. What is Maulana's views regarding majority and minority? He very clearly said, he argued, he agreed with the claims of the Muslim that their interests were not safe in India because they were in minority. He was not convinced with this idea. He declared, he said, if they were in minority in 7 states, they were in majority in 5 states too. In such condition, the idea of their being in minority should not bother them, because he believed minority can be creative, minority can represent the majority's voice, minority can be indispensable in the country. Without them, country cannot run properly, but they should achieve that stature. They should reach that height that they are the creative people and they could do many things for the country. They could contribute many things to the growth and development of the country. So the question of majority minority was meaningless to him. He said majority minority problem is no problem, because many people we know, some are religiously minority, some are linguistically minority, and some are minority in thoughts and ideas, but they are creative. So Azad appealed to the Muslim to be more creative and to shake hand with the majority people. He said they should have confidence on the majority, and majority definitely respond to their call. It's a understanding between the two, because they are the citizen of the country. They are the inhabitants of the country. So for the greater cause of the country, they should be united. They should preach the mission of amity, unity, harmony, peace, etc., etc. And that is why he says the division of India was basically wrong on the basis of religion. That is true. And what I have told, he said, if we have mutual confidence in ourselves, then we shall always feel emboldened. And the truth is that it is only mutual confidence and faith in ourselves that can be guarantee for our hopeful future. Maulana Azad used to remark very clearly. I quote him. What did he say? Today, 11 centuries have gone. Islam holds the same light over India as does Hinduism. If the inhabitants of this country profess Hinduism for many thousand years, Islam too is people's religion here for 1,000 years. Like a Hindu declaring proudly that he is an Indian and believing in Hinduism, we can declare with pride that we are Indian and believe in Islam. I would like to express it in wider terms that Indian Christians too have the right to say with pride that they are Indian and they believe in Christianity. So this was the reason why, as the president of Indian National Congress, he declared that the Muslims should join the Congress for the freedom of the country. The country, according to him, did not belong to a particular community. It belonged to all and one. Why did he make this appeal? Because, you know, after the great rising of 1857, the heavy hand of the Britisher fall on the Muslim more than on the Hindu. I got this line from Peter Hardy's The Muslims of British India. Even Jawaharlal Nehru wrote in his autobiography about the punishment of the Muslim by the British after the great 1857, because Bahadur Shah was the leader. The Mughal princes were cut into pieces and thrown in the river of Jamuna. And Mughal Jamindars, Muslim Jamindars were punished, Hindu Jamindars were punished. But according to Jawaharlal, the Muslim Jamindars are more punished than the Hindu Jamindars, because it was the policy of the Britishers, divide and rule. And they thought that they are the challenge. And at that time, that tyranny was so heavy that many Muslims left the country. They migrated, because Prophet Muhammad also migrated. They learned this lesson. But even Azad family migrated from India to Mecca. Azad was born in Mecca. And when he was grown up boy, his family came to Calcutta and settled there. His father was a man from Uttar Pradesh and mother was an Arabian lady. So after that, when National Congress was formed, it was the party of the elites, you all know. And in the beginning, the Muslims did not join National Congress. They thought it was the Congress of the Hindu elites. Even when Badruddin Taibji was made the third president of Indian National Congress, he also appealed. But nobody paid heed to his words. Aligarh Anglo-Oriental Mohammedan College was founded. Muslim boys were educated from there. So I'm coming there later on. But what happened, that is why Azad knew very well. Azad convinced his people that you should join Congress. Congress is not the party of Congress is a national party. It was not the party of the Hindus. So it is better to join and fight for the greater cause of the country. So some of the Muslims responded to his call. Recently, I have gone through a book, The Muslims Against Muslim League, a critique of the idea of Pakistan, that was edited by Megan Eaton Robb and Uthman Huzari, published from Cambridge. And this book showed how many organizations, how many individuals among the Muslims did not join Muslim League, and they are vehemently criticized by the Muslim leaders, but they did not pay any attention. Even in Bengal, from where I represent you, we have noticed that Soed Badruddin, very eminent personalities, Rezaul Karim, very eminent personality, they did not join Muslim League. Rather, they fought against Muslim League. So that is why Maulana Azad had to put more effort to convince the Muslim that if you join with National Congress, that will give you more benefit rather than to join to the Muslim League. So he was trying. And he appealed to them to please join and join. And he says again, today 11th centuries have gone, Islam holds the same life over India as does Hinduism. If the inhabitants of this country profess Hinduism for many thousand years, Islam too is people's religion here for thousands years. Like a Hindu declaring proudly that he is an Indian and believing in Hinduism, we can declare with proud that we are Indian and believe in Islam. I would like to express it in the wider terms that all the inhabitants of the country are Indian. This is his view. Now, freedom and nationalism. What is his view? In 1911, when he was just 23 years age, he became Congress president of Delhi session. He says there is no alternative between freedom and death. And he further said that the stronger nationalism can be built on the basis of complete independence, economic, social, and political. And it is only by this way that inter-religious conflict can be resolved. For this, it is also necessary that freedom should be linked with equality, and there should be real freedom based not merely on theoretical principle, but in a practical way. That is why he made appeal again and again to the people. He always laid great stress on rational approach to resolve the differences between Hindus and the Muslims. For the causes of united India, he believed that he should look more to the past than to the some intellectual thinking today. And it is possible to unite India and to unite Indian people without any shade of doubt. So whenever he was appealing again and again, you can easily understand his relationship with Muslim League was very, very bitter. Even he did not talk to Jinnah eye to eye. He had huge reservation for Jinnah, and Jinnah had animosity with him because Jinnah think that Azad was playing the role of agent of Indian National Congress. He was the enemy of the Muslims. So who was right, who is wrong, history can answer that thing. But there is no denying the fact that Maulana Azad was a staunch nationalist and a congressman. He considered that Congress belonged to every group and did not accept Muslim League and Jinnah's plea that is represented particularly the community. When Muslim League was founded, Maulana Azad joined revolutionary group along with Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, and he contributed tremendously for the Congress organization, for the national movement. And he condemned League leaders' opinion and strongly called upon the Muslims to the country. What did he say? Muslims have the right to do whatever they like for the protection of their right and interest. But it was their internal dispute. They should not take any such step as should endanger the freedom of the country. It is regrettable that Mr. Jinnah is pushing them to this unfortunate situation, which clearly indicated that they are being made an obstacle in the freedom of India. He also requested the League to cooperate in the struggle for freedom. It is well known that he worked with the policy of cooperation throughout the tenure of his presidency. But now, whatever we have noticed from his childhood, from his boyhood, Azad was against Muslim League's policy. Azad was against the policy of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And you know, when he was president of Congress in the final stage 1940-46, at that time, what we have noticed, on August 8, 1940, the Governor General made an offer for the expansion of his Executive Council and invited Indian leaders to join it. And when the Congress put forward its own condition, Azad, in the capacity of the President of Indian National Congress, sent a telegram to Jinnah and requested him to go forward and go through the resolution of the Congress and agree with that. But what was the reply? That is very shocking. Azad requested Jinnah for the greater interest of the country, for the greater interest of the unity, amity, harmony and peace of the country. But Jinnah attacked him personally. He vilified him. I quote the reply of his telegram. Jinnah told Azad in reply, within quotation, I refuse to discuss with you by correspondence or otherwise, as you have completely forfeited the confidence of Muslim India. Can't you realize you are made a Muslim Showboy Congress president to give it color that it is national and deceive foreign countries. If you have self-respect, resign at once. You have done your worst against the league so far. You know you have hopelessly failed. Give it up, unquote. So it was a personal attack to Azad. He was described as the Muslim showboy of Congress, and Congress was fulfilling its design, its aims, its objective through this agent. So it was an insult to Azad. Azad was the president of the Congress in pre-independent India. So it was not a very small position. Who fought for the country in the very beginning, I told, during his presidency, the resolution of quitting the movement was passed. So it was an insult. But Azad did not reply anything. But on his behalf, his followers, his supporters reminded Azad one of his lectures, what he delivered in 1923 in Delhi session when he was made young president of Congress. And at that time, he made a very fantastic appeal to the people and clear his position. He said, I quote, "Today, if an angel descends from the sky and declared from the height of Delhi's Qutub Minar that India can get Swaraj in 24 hours, provided she gives up the idea of Hindu-Muslim unity, I will forego the Swaraj rather than the Hindu-Muslim unity. Because if Swaraj is delayed, it will be a loss of India alone. But if this unity is lost, it will be a loss of the entire humanity of the world." So this was the befitting reply to Jinnah. He said, Swaraj can be delayed, but unity cannot be delayed. If Swaraj is delayed, it is a loss for India. But if unity is delayed, it is a loss for the world people. So this is his view regarding Muslim League and Muslim Leaguer. Though he was dubbed as the agent of the Congress, showboy of Congress, he did not bother for this because he knew very well what he was doing, that was right and that was practical. And what Jinnah was doing, that was neither right nor practical. It only fulfilled his ego. That is why he demanded Pakistan. He got Pakistan, but his countrymen were unable to keep Pakistan in their hand. It was also partitioned in 1971 because there was no solid foundation of the new state. And you know, on 16 August 1946, there was a huge riot in Calcutta. And that was a public holiday declared by the government. Maulana Azad was shocked to see the rule of the government run by the Muslim League. And he rightly pointed out to the governor during an interview. What he said, it had made the hooligans of Calcutta's underworld believe that they had the license of the government to behave as they like. So this was the situation. And I told you that Azad was again and again out and out against the idea of Pakistan. He did not support, and he put forward a number of arguments that it is not realistic, it is not practical, and he firmly believed that partition could have been avoided if tactfully it was accepted. But unfortunately, that was not tactfully tackled. So India gained her freedom but lost her unity when we got independence. A new state called Pakistan came into being. Pakistan was the creation of the Muslim League, which was originally founded to oppose the Congress. That is the thing here. Azad's view He said, can anyone deny the fact that the creation of Pakistan has not solved the communal problem, but made it more intense and harmful? The basis of partition was enmity between Hindus and the Muslims. The creation of Pakistan gave it a permanent constitutional form and made it much more difficult of solution. The most regrettable features of this situation are that the subcontinent of India is divided into two states, which look at one another with hatred and fear. Pakistan believes that India will not allow her to rest in peace and will destroy her whenever she has an opportunity. Similarly, India thinks that whenever Pakistan gets an opportunity, she will move against India and attack her. So this was the hard realistic situation. But what was the argument of Azad other than this thing? Because he had made so many arguments, but one very important argument I am to put forward before you, because I cannot take my temptation. And he was a visionary. He forecasted that Pakistan could not exist 2-3 decades, and that happened. So let's see what was his view. Azad sought to show that if the cabinet mission scheme of 1946 had been accepted by the Congress, partition could have been avoided. Perhaps you all know what is the cabinet mission's proposal. Cabinet mission proposed to divide India into 3 zones under one central government. A, B, C. A is the northwestern side where Muslims are majority. That will be in the hand of the Muslims. And north is particularly Bengal and Assam. Muslims are slightly majority. And from north to south, entire region will be in the hand of the Hindus, but under central government. And according to Azad, that was the most acceptable proposal. In the initial stage, it was accepted by both the Congress and Muslim League. Later on, neither Congress nor Muslim League accepted it. So it came into vain. It did not give much more result. So now let's see what is Azad's position. Partition को Azad's prophecy that East and West Pakistan can remain united for more than a few decades also came true. He wrote, within Mr. Jinnah and his followers did not seem to realize that geography was against the Muslims in undivided India, was distributed in a way which made it impossible to form a separate state in a consolidated area. The Muslim majority areas were on the north, west, and the northeast. These two regions have no point of physical contacts. People of these two areas are completely different from one another in every respect, except only in religion. It is one of the greatest thoughts on the people to suggest religious affinity can unite areas which are geographically, economically, linguistically, and culturally different. It is true that Islam sought to establish a society which transcends racial, linguistic, economic, and political frontiers. History has, however, proved that after the first few decades, or at the most after the first century, Islam was not able to unite all the Muslim countries into one state on the basis of Islam alone. Because whenever we examine anything, we have to examine in the yardstick of time and space. So there is a gap of time and space. It cannot be possible. And I know many of you have gone through the autobiography of Maulana Azad, India Wants Freedom. And where there is a chapter named The End of a Dream. Maulana Azad lamented in this chapter the end of the dream, that India was partitioned in 1947, two dominions are created, but the Hindu-Muslim problem was not solved. And you know, from 1888 to 1958, that was the span of his life span of Maulana Azad. 30 pages of his book he did not publish during his lifetime. It was submitted to National Library and National Archives. And in the deed, it was mentioned that after the 30 years of his death, this 30 page should come out and become the part of the book. And if you go through this 30 page of his books, you can realize his pains, his sufferings, because he tried. He had a dream to fulfill, that India would be united, but his dream was shattered. He was unable to see united India. So he was very unhappy. He was really very sad, and he did not know what to do in this critical juncture. But he criticized his dear and near friends, his colleagues with whom he was involved and engaged in politics. Pandit Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Babu Rajendra Prasad, or criticized. Only father of nation, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, told that India would be partitioned on my tomb. But he became old, and whenever an old father is unable to manage the family because he loses control, Gandhi also loses control. And when he has given in consent in the Congress Working Committee meeting, the resolution passed, India was divided. But the wound of the partition was in the mind of Azad, and the wound of the partition was still is in the mind of the people of the subcontinent. We do not know why you are partitioned. Who are the representative of the common people? Did they ask for the consent of the common people? No. Common people are not aware of it. But these 30 pages are very, very significant to read the mind of Azad and to read the mind of the followers of Azad, sympathizer of Azad, and one who think in the line of Azad regarding the country. Even when Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi gave consent, at the time Frontier Gandhi, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, he cried. He said, Bapuji, why have you not consulted me once before giving your consent? You have sent me to the hands of the leopard. They would kill me in frontier provinces. So that was the real tragedy. But Azad's dream was not fulfilled, no doubt. But Azad's aspiration, Azad's yearning, Azad's suffering, Azad's crying pay much to the mind of the people who had heard. So this is the exact thing what I would like to say. But regarding Azad, actually people made various comments, because I told that Jinnah had very animosity with him, but he had no animosity with Jinnah, because when Azad became the education minister of India, he had to go to Russia. On his way to Russia, he dropped in Karachi and made prayer in the tomb of Jinnah for the salvation of his soul. So he was not narrow, he was neither narrow nor parochial. And what was the feeling of his own colleague about him? Let's see what Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi thought about him. Gandhi said, within quotation, I have the pleasure of working with Maulana since 1920. His love for the country is as strong as his faith in Islam. He is one of the greatest leaders of the Indian National Congress. One should never forget it, unquote. So Maulana believed from the very beginning that Indians can make a strong nation only when they have unity among themselves. Like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, there was nothing dearer to his heart than the unity of the people. Even his colleague and dearest friend, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, what was his feeling about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad? Actually, that I would like to share with you. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru delivered first Maulana Azad Memorial Lecture on 11 November 1959. And in this lecture, he said, I quote, "The Maulana was a great religious scholar, journalist, writer, poet, philosopher, and above all, a great political leader whose services and sacrifices in the freedom struggle will be long remembered, along with his matchless contribution as Free India's first education minister." So if we sum up the lectures, then we can simply conclude without any shade of doubt that Maulana Azad was a great friend of the Indian people, irrespective caste, creed, religion. He was an ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity. He was a great freedom fighter who was arch enemy of the Britishers. And he was also against the idea of Pakistan. And throughout his life, he fought against the British. That is why he was put in jail many times. And he wrote one book in the jail, Masalai Khilafat. Here he tried to explain that Muslims should be loyal to the Caliph and to the religion from religious point of view, but they should be loyal to the interest of the country. They should be loyal for the greater interest of humanity, and that would be base duty. Even he quoted from the prophets. Once Prophet Muhammad was asked, who's the greatest man in the world? He said, he's the greatest one who served the humanity. He never said Maulvi, Maulana, Mufti, Kaji. So he understood Islam in inner spirit, not in letters. So he did that. And he realized from the core of the heart that the Pakistan plan, the idea of Pakistan, will not serve the interest of the countrymen. It may serve the interest of some vested interest group. And in course of time, it will be difficult for Pakistan to make its existence. In 1971, we have seen that it was broken. Bangladesh came into being and a new state because there was a clash of culture and language. And now what we have noticed in Pakistan, in the scene, in Punjab, in other some provinces, they are not echoing the same tone as the Pakistan administration says. That is why in the TV, in the newspaper, we see some revolt. Even in the foreign country, they raise their voice, that we have noticed. So finally, I can say that Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was a great leader of mankind who tried his level best to keep the country intact, but he was not successful for various reasons that may be discussed in other meeting by somebody or me or anyone. But his dream was the practical dream, and practical dream did not come true. It does not matter, but he is the inspiration to us, even in the awkward situation, even in the very bad condition, even in the very critical juncture of the civilization. So we admire him, his contribution, and time is up that we have to examine Maulana Azad's great role in the struggle of independence. Then we can make the correct evaluation of Azad. So I would like to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Shanur Rahman, for this very enlightening lecture on Maulana Azad's nationalist politics. I now questions and
Yes.
brief comments from the audience. You can raise your hand. Yeah, I see a hand. Meenakshi ji, please go ahead.
Sir, I have one observation and two questions.
Please.
The observation is that when we talk about Maulana Azad, we should also keep in mind that in the 1946 elections, in which the Muslims alone were allowed to vote in Muslim reserved constituencies, majority of the seats were won by the Muslim League, even in places like Kerala, which could surely not go to Pakistan. So this 1946 elections, where the Muslims from all parts of India overwhelmingly voted for the Muslim League, is something that we should not overlook. Second, my question now, two questions. One is, what do you have to say about Maulana Azad's criticism of Sardar Patel following partition as recorded in his book, India Wins Freedom? And second question is, he was education minister for a decade. So could you please tell us what kind of history writing of the freedom movement he promoted as education minister? Thank you, sir.
We will take questions. We will take a couple of questions before.
I can respond to her.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, madam, I have heard your observation, and you are very right, whatever you have said. But you know, the Muslim League was not the only representative of the Muslim population in the country. The Muslim League was also led by the elitist Muslims. Common Muslim had no place in the Muslim League at the time. And Patel, he criticized in the 30 pages, which are published later on after his day, 30 years of his day, where he criticized Maulana Azad and Nehru at a time that he was not successful to unite the country, not only for Muslim leagues, but finally he did not get support from two of his prominent colleagues, Pandit Nehru and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And regarding history writing, I don't exactly remember the day, but the national historiography under the leadership of Tarachand started during this time, but I cannot tell you the exact year. Even Tarachand, when he has written so many books and he requested many people to write, even this proposal was given to Syed Jodhullah Sarkar also, but he was not in a position to take over the church. Okay, next question.
Other questions?
These two questions, she had only two questions, yes.
No, anyone else? Please raise your hand or straight away ask the question. Either raise your hand or ask the question.
I am from the district of Murshidabad, where Sir was born and brought up. I want to ask a question from Sir, the 2 days who delivered a speech, that was the formation of Muslim League was a wrong decision? Was the formation of Muslim League wrong decision? Which and in which book, if there is any, did Maulana express his concern regarding the formation of Muslim League? So what was his opinion about the formation of Muslim League?
Okay, very fine. You know, Mr. Shamsul Halsana, Maulana was a journalist. He edited 2 journals in Urdu, Al-Hilal and Al-Balagh. In 1906, when this organization was founded, at the time he has shown his feeling before Shyamsundar Gupta and Chittaranjan Das. And if you see later on, then you see in everywhere he argued that the formation of the Muslim League would not serve the political purpose of the Muslim. You can find any organization without disturbing the integrity of the country. You have every right. But whenever the country was fighting against the British Raj. At that time, the foundation of Muslim League helped the Britishers, to the best of my knowledge, because we are divided and we could not fight against the enemy properly. And you see, Jinnah was never put in jail, but Azad was in jail, Nehru was in jail, Patel was in jail. Why? And if you go through his autobiography, not go to many books, his clear view you can see in India Wins Freedom. Thank you.
Other questions? Please raise your hand or ask the question.
I think some comments are there if you have a look.
देखिए comments है क्या? Yes, but they are not related to any question.
Okay, but one vice chancellor, former vice chancellor, has given one note that I have seen.
They are complimenting. They are complimenting you.
Okay. Okay,
all right. Let us wait for other questions. In the meantime, I had a small question of my own.
Yes.
You very rightly said that Maulana Azad had a very sort of broad-based understanding of nationalism in mind, and he wanted to include people belonging to all castes, communities, races, ethnicities, and linguistic groups within his concept of Indian nationalism. And he also said that it does not matter where your religious affiliation lies. As Indians, everyone's affiliation should be to the Indian nation in the political sense. And we know that Maulana Azad remained important politically also till the rise of the Muslim League in the 1940s. I mean, till the Pakistan became prominent. And we know that Jinnah played, a very vicious kind of politics, Muslim League and Jinnah. And they sort of undercut Maulana Azad's brand of moderate Muslim politics, which believed in Indian nationalism. Now, without going into details of how that happened, I wanted to get your response on what you think were the main reasons, the main forces that enabled Muslim League and Jinnah to emerge in the 1940s to replace people like Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, apart from, of course, the role of the British, and ultimately succeed in the creation of Pakistan.
My response?
Yes.
Actually, Maulana Azad was a deeply religious man. He had gone through the Quran and Hadith. And if you go through the traditions of Islam, then you can see when the Islamic State founded, first of all, under the leadership of Prophet Muhammad in 622, where all the people were accommodated. The Jews, the Christians, the Bedouins, the tribes. Maulana understood Islam in spirit, not in letter. And where he had deep feeling for the Indian people in general, but Muslims in particular. He knew that if the Muslim get Pakistan, then the purpose would not be served, because Indian people are spread in India in a scattered form. As Madam says, Keralite Muslim, it would be very difficult for them to go to West Pakistan. Culturally, economically, they are completely different, as the Indian Muslim is different than the Arab Muslims. So Maulana Azad realized from the core of the heart that to join Muslim League would not serve the interest of the Muslim, rather it will hamper the interest of the Muslim. Particularly those who will be minorities in Pakistan, in India, they will be the worst sufferers. So he wanted to emancipate people, and he knew that the slogan of unity and integrity are the main thing. That is why, from practical point of view, he did not join Muslim League because he thought that it was a wrong idea. Rather, nationalism in the context of India is the greater idea, and this idea can help the people to live in peace and harmony. That is why not only Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Khan Abdul Ghaffar, even organizations like Jamaat-e-Ulema-e-Hind and others, they did not join. Even, you know, the Jamaat-e-Ulema-e-Hind preachers, they are in Sylhet of Bangladesh today, at the time Pakistan. When the independence was declared, they are tortured like anything, and they had to come back to India. They did not stay there. So Azad's feeling is this, that whenever the country will be divided, then many people will have to face a lot of difficulties. So he wanted to remove the difficulties of the people and try to teach people to be united. And that is why he was with Indian National Congress. And it was not any diplomacy, it was his firm conviction that Indian National Congress can do better in the context of time and space than in the emerging Pakistan. Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you. Any other question?
There is a text question.
What can today's Pakistan learn from Maulana Azad? That's the question.
Pardon me, I can't get what?
What can today's Pakistan learn from Maulana Azad? Kishore Dere has asked this question.
Okay. I think when Pakistan, when Bangladesh came into being at that time, the teaching of Azad was very relevant to Pakistani people.
Right. Right. Any other question?
Sir, there is one more question.
One question I have seen here.
There is a question from Tapavrat Bhaduri. Was there any influence of Sufi thoughts on Maulana Azad's secular political philosophy?
Yes. He was very much a Sufi also, because he was never guided by the Jamaat-e-Islami idea or any kind of fundamentalist idea. He was a liberal Muslim, and he was very much impressed and influenced by the idea of the Sufis, particularly Chishtiya Silsila. And Sajib Bhardwaj, I know you have a question. Yes, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was a part of Khilafat movement along with Muhammad Ali, Shaukat Ali, which was supported by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And at that time, they became very close with each other.
Thank you. I think now we have reached the end of questions, and of course, we have also run out of time completely. So at the end of this, I would like to thank Professor Shanur Rahman for this very comprehensive and informative lecture on Maulana Azad's nationalist philosophy and politics. And I will also take the opportunity to thank all the members of the audience for their presence here and for their participation. We look forward to having more discussions of this kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear friend. We'll meet someday.